contributing more. Also this was the Michael Jordan era. We're now into a new era, so it may change some now. But all of that, he goes there, it doesn't work out. He's gone. But this is a guy who got fired from Charlotte, is one of your main options. And then JJ Redick, who has zero coaching experience, who is 39 years old.
Yeah.
In a podcast host, good player, smart basketball mind, clearly, but no coaching experience. Or Monty Williams is now available as a coach who has coaching experience, who, has had really good rapport with players, especially sometimes older players of a different generation where there may be the age gap. So he may be able to work well with this Lakers team right now. But he is a guy that has come off 2 teams now that have decided that he's not good enough to get it done. It's curious to see if his name gets entered into it, or if he says, screw it, my mind's on the right place. That's why I wasn't working in Detroit too. I have other issues on my family life is not where it needs to be. So I do need to take some time off. The only reason I didn't was because I got an offer I couldn't refuse. And they pay me so much money. I tried to tell them no, and they offer me more money. So maybe I do need to take some time off. Maybe he won't be interested, but it'll be interesting to see if his name comes up in the conversation.
It should. I mean, why wouldn't it? When you said one of your main, at least the candidates now, is JJ Redick, who has no coaching experience at all, and another guy who just was recently fired. And I can say that, but he was recently fired. The NBA coaching culture, it's a very, very strange one. Very little job security for those coaches, but you do get the straight cash, homie. Ooh, yeah. $20 million buyout and then a $65 million buyout. Fire me all day, every day. I'll take that. I don't even. Man, why would Monty even want to coach? I guess he just loves the game, but I guess you can go be assistant coach. You don't have to be a head coach if you don't want to. But
by the way, do you see Jeff Van Gundy is going to the Clippers? Going to the Clippers as an assistant coach. He's going back into coaching. So that's interesting. But and then but like we talk about coaches, Frank Vogel is always an example. Won a championship with the Lakers in 2020. Was fired in 2022. Gets hired in 2023 to go be the coach of the Suns, and has already been fired from the Suns.
Yeah.
So we won a championship in 2020. And has already been fired from 2 teams.
Like a championship doesn't even get you made status anymore.
Fired twice since winning a championship less than 5 years ago. It's crazy.
There's just no way another major pro sport has a head coaching culture like that. It's just it's very unique to the NBA. Because like I said, once you establish yourself as being successful in the NFL, it buys you some security. It buys you no security in the NBA. That title, that's crazy that you brought about Frank Vogel. It's unbelievable.
I will also throw one last point. This should tell you how little most teams care about paying coaches, and why the Dan Hurley offer was complete bogus.
Just
another reason I tell you. They don't care.
Great point. Yes, you're right. Good point on that. Yeah, they just paid this dude the highest. He was the highest paid coach in NBA history, and then the next year they're like, "Yeah, we'll give you all that money. Just leave."
Just leave. They could have bought him out after 2 or 3 years easily if they didn't like what Dan Hurley was doing, and they chose not to.
Yep. No, you're right. It's a good point. All right. Good stuff there from Patrick. All right. A couple of other topics here before we get to the break. Okay. So DeMarvin Overshawn was speaking to the media about Mike Zimmer's new defense and Mike Zimmer's coaching style. And he said something that some people are perceiving as a slight, him disrespecting or dissing Dan Quinn. I don't think that's the case. I just think he's talking about the difference in their coaching styles, and I'll explain it here in a second. But here's a quote. DeMarvin Overshawn said, quote, "I like Zim because he actually teaches us football. You feel it, and you get a good grasp of everything going on with the defense. You know what the safeties are doing and what the D-line are doing in front of you, and it's easy to click with everybody. I tell people all the time that I'm excited to play for him. I've seen who he's coached, the defenses he's been a part of, and they've all been special. When you get to play for a guy like this, you want to take everything that he says and write it down, make a mental note of it, because he's not telling you anything that's not going to make you a great player in this league." All right, so I think ultimately what it comes down to, because I've had coaches like this too. Coach Akina was a coach that wanted you to know the macro and wanted you to know the responsibilities of the players around you in that system. And I do think it helped my overall football IQ, but I've also had coaches that just want you to specialize. Coach Withers before, I want you just to specialize in your specific expertise, your isolated pocket of execution, whatever that may be. They want you just to focus on that. And I think it's all about the coaching style and the different styles. And I do think for Dan Quinn, think about Dan Quinn's, the objective of his defense was different than Zimmer's, the objective of a Zimmer defense. Dan Quinn wanted to just force takeaways and force turnovers and splash plays on defense, havoc plays on defense, and he wanted to get pressure on the opposing QB. Those were the two things that he wanted to do: get pressure and force takeaways, and he did it. Right, they were a top 5 pressure unit in the NFL, and top 5 in sacks and pressures while he was there at the Cowboys or with the Cowboys, and they were also they led the NFL actually in takeaways in back-to-back years, because in the way he would achieve this was by creating chaos and confusion at every level of the defense and different pockets. And isolated, specialized pockets of chaos. So lots of bump and run with the corners on the outside to throw off the timing and the precision of the passing game. More twists and stunts and games up front in the front 7 on the D-line than anybody else in the NFL to confuse blocking schemes. More pre-snap rotation with not 2 safeties, but 3 safeties to confuse the pre-snap read of the quarterback, so pre-snap would never match post-snap. He also loved the hybrid defenders, so he can move different pieces around the chessboard, further confusing the quarterback about where certain positions, the Mike linebacker, where the field safety, where they were supposed to be on any given down. So that confusion would create chaos, and chaos will always benefit the defense because offenses are built on precision, accuracy, timing. Defense don't need any of that. We just need chaos, and chaos will help the defense. So he was almost a riverboat gambler in that he would create chaos at every level, all these specialized, isolated pockets of chaos, and he would let the chips fall where they may, but he knew that offense is so built on execution and timing and precision and accuracy that chaos ultimately will benefit the defense. And I cause enough of it, and I'll get turnovers as a result. I'll get pressure as a result of creating confusion and chaos, and he did. He did it really well. But with Zimmer, you're going to get a more assignment sound, structurally sound defense, less gambling, all right, fewer moving parts. Remember, Dan Quinn also liked speed on the field, so he'd throw a lot of sub packages out there, nickel packages, dime packages, to the point where he'd play against a running team like whether it be the Bills when they were running, or the Miami Dolphins, or even the Green Bay Packers, and they'd be running 12 personnel, 1 back, 2 tight ends, heavy sets, and Dan Quinn will be matching up with them with sub packages, with nickel and dime packages. He played 3 safeties more than anybody else. So there are just certain parts of his defense that exposed the lack of structural integrity of Dan Quinn's defense. It was still a good defense, but it had different objectives. It wanted to create takeaways and pressure. It wasn't trying to be structurally sound. That's why it would oftentimes give up chunk yardage plays in the run game, and it at times would give up explosive plays because you're gambling, and sometimes when you gamble, you're going to lose. Less gambling with Mike Zimmer, so I think you'll be less susceptible to explosive plays. It's more structurally sound, assignment sound, so you'll be better up against the run because you'll have fewer twists and stunts. You'll be moving as many pieces around. You won't be playing as many sub packages, so you'll be more stout against the run too, but you won't create as many havoc plays, and you won't create the same amount of pressure. Of course, you'll get good pressure because you got Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. You got 2 of the better pressure defenders